writing proportions from table. So looking at this table right here, I see a relationship about lemon juice in the first column and sugar amount in the second column. So it seems like this is a recipe, and there are 3 different kinds of recipes, 1, 2, and 3. And they say, look at it and then write an equation, reading the sentence, write an equation to show the relationship between J, which is amount of lemon, so this is going to be J, and S, amount of sugar. Okay, well, if I'm talking proportions, we know that we can say proportions if I'm comparing one number to the other. I can write it this way, or I can write it that looks like a fraction. Okay, let me do that back. I don't want that. It's A. So order matters, what goes first. In the same way, looking at our rate or proportion, I see that for the batch A, I have 500 milliliters of juice, but I need 200 grams of sugar. And I prefer write it as a fraction because it looks like a fraction. I can treat it as a fraction, so I can simplify it. And if I simplify it, I can divide the top and the bottom. Let me change the color. I think I can divide by 100, top and the bottom. And if I do that, I can end up with 5/2. So that's a ratio. For every 5 milliliters of lemon juice, I need 2 grams of sugar. So these are 5 milliliters of lemon juice, and these are 2 grams of sugar. I can leave it as a fraction. I can leave it as a fraction. I can write it in this kind of ratio, and I know that first part is milliliters of lemon juice, and second part is grams of sugar. Or I can even divide 5 divided by 2, and I can end up with 2.5, but that's relationship. Makes sense. 5 divided by 2 or 5 divided by 2, I get 2.5. That would be a relationship. Okay, let me see what I need here. I want to rewrite this so it looks a little bit more organized. So I still have 500 milliliters to 200 grams, or 5 milliliters to 2 grams. And I can have 2.5, where's that purple? 2.5 milliliters per 1 gram. That's what we decided when we were looking at, when we divided 5 divided by 2, we get that we need 2.5 milliliters, and that's going to take only 1 gram of sugar. And now we can write an equation. And we need to use J and S, and they're related. So we need to figure out how they're related. So J is 2.5 for sure, and S is grams, 1 gram. That's one way to label it. I know this is J, that's what I chose in a story, and this is going to be S, that's what I chose in a story again. But before we get carried away and continue looking for that relationship that looks like equation, we need to double check that each batch has the same relationship. And all we have to do is simply 500, like we did here, 500 divided by 200. This is what we ended up with. 750 divided by 300. 1,500 divided by 600. If we get, for all these 3 situations, the same relationship, 2.5 milliliters over 1 gram, that means that whole chart is proportional, and we can assume that batch D, we can build it up from there. We can keep growing the proportion. And this really turns out to be equals 2.7 compared to 1, 2.7 compared to 1. So they do still have, I mean, recipe works. It's still good recipe.